Should the Philippines become a U.S. territory or state? See how this scenario could affect our people and our culture, our economy, and our personal finances, and most especially our struggle to resolve our ongoing conflict with China. If the Philippines were to become a part of the United States of America, first and foremost, visa-free travel would absolutely be possible. No more long waits for stressful and meticulous interviews at the U.S. Embassy. We would be free to migrate, settle and work, or just simply visit anywhere in the U.S. That domestic flight to mainland USA would only require a plane ticket and you're set. Pack that suitcase and enjoy that long-haul flight across the Pacific to a U.S. port of entry. Wow! Tara na! Pasyal na tayo! New York, LA, Las Vegas, here we come! Subsequently, the Philippine peso would be equivalent to the US dollar. In fact, the US dollar would be the currency in the Philippines. Furthermore, the economies of the US and the Philippines would both be significantly better than they currently are. The US-Philippine manufacturing companies, BPOs or business process outsourcing, as well as the service-oriented industry would have an enormous combined domestic market of about 450 million people to cater to, and business would literally scale overnight and explode. Logistically, US-based companies would merge with Philippine companies to set up factories and manufacture products in the Philippines for mainland USA, the Asian region, and beyond. Proudly, the US-Philippine-made products and services would be of the best standards and quality. Furthermore, they would employ mostly local Filipinos who are proven to be amongst the most diligent, dependable, and willing workers in the world. This in turn would drastically improve the individual salaries and household incomes of the majority of families in the Philippines. No longer would Filipinos aspire to work overseas and away from their families to make good money. Delightfully, Filipinos would be together with their loved ones, as opposed to the numerous incomplete and dysfunctional families that are the circumstances of having a family member working overseas. Filipinos would only venture to work abroad out of curiosity and to widen their horizons and perhaps to pursue professional advancements. We would have the privilege of being able to settle down and legally work in mainland USA. The land of opportunity, the land of milk and honey, and the land of the greenback. In fact, there wouldn't even be a need to work in the continental US, as the opportunities in the state of the Philippines would be plentiful and as equally financially rewarding. However, most of us would choose to live and work in the continental US to see the amazing places, meet interesting and diverse people, and experience the unique American culture and lifestyle. We would definitely go just to escape the oppressive hot and humid weather in the Philippines. It's funny how most Americans and other nationalities worship the warm tropical weather, whilst we Pinoys long for cold, wintry weather like in the UK, Canada, Australia, and America. Wow! Snow! Ang lamig! Fun fact. Since 2011, the number of tourists from the Philippines that visit the US has increased each year. In 2011, 172,000 plus Filipinos visited the US and peaked in 2019 at 332,000 plus. In 2020, when COVID hit, that number plummeted to 45,800 and picked back up to 191,000 plus in 2022. Conversely, about 620,000 Americans visited the Philippines in 2011 and increased year on year and peaking in 2019 at 1.6 million tourist arrivals. The pandemic brought the annual visits to the archipelago down to 39,000 and the tourism industry suffered immensely. If the Philippines were to become a part of the USA, how would it possibly affect our economy? Economically, the Philippines is steadily becoming a regional business and financial hub. However, many big multinational companies are still somewhat reluctant in establishing or fully committing their business ventures in the Philippines, primarily due to issues like the perceived rampant graft and corruption, as well as the questionable and annoying traditional red tape bureaucracy. not to mention the certain laws that restrict foreign investment in the country. Their CEOs are also very much concerned with the availability of reliable and uninterrupted electricity, telecommunications, and most importantly, fast and steady internet. They contemplate if the proper infrastructure is in place to support and sustain major investments. Issues to consider are if the country's legal framework of policies and protocols that are vital to establishing and scaling a business are conducive and fair for foreign investors. Moreover, the consistency or lack thereof in governance and regulations would be some of the more pressing concerns. Furthermore, the risk of doing business in the country is very alarming due to the elements of random crime as well as the organized syndicates and terrorists that engage in kidnapping, extortion, embezzlement, fraud, and the like. Numerous unresolved high-profile cases of kidnapping and murder in the country are well documented and therefore scare foreign investors away. Becoming a part of the US would ease a lot of these concerns. It would instill confidence into the big global firms to invest. This in turn would hyper-accelerate the Philippine economy into regional dominance. Move over China, Japan, Korea, and Singapore, there's gonna be a new player in the game. Integration of American resources, ingenuity, and advanced business models into the Philippine economy would make it ultra-progressive, prosperous, and truly world-class. Subsequently, this would change the negative public perception of our society and eradicate the stigma of widespread graft and corruption in the nation's government that is attributed to the decades of dysfunction in all levels of such. More importantly, the normalized toxic mindset, dialogue, and behavior we have openly towards each other would be frowned upon and ultimately have no place in business, in our government, and in society as a whole. With an influx of global commerce, there would be new economic hubs all over the Philippine Islands. Provincial cities like Tuguegarao, San Fernando, Bacolod, Oroquieta, and Cagayan de Oro, amongst others, would emerge as prominent and strategic commercial and technological headquarters. Neglected and underdeveloped cities would be fast-tracked. Investments and development would grow exponentially. Hence, Metro Manila and the NCR would eventually be decentralized and decongested. Hundreds of thousands of jobs all over the Philippines would be created and the economy would surge. These dynamic provincial cities would ultimately attain and even surpass the stature and economical significance of Manila. The transportation infrastructure and road network would be optimized, renovated, or totally rebuilt to accommodate traffic and move people faster. US standard airports, freeways, bridges, and tunnels would interlink the islands, making travel safe, efficient, comfortable, and fun. Our airports would become major transit points and gates to the hundreds of beautiful and amazing exotic tropical resorts in the Philippines, and would also serve as a major international transit for flights to other destinations in Asia and beyond. The hypothetical US territory or state would be so advanced and modern on so many levels and at par with the likes of Singapore, Korea, and Japan that other nationalities would be scampering to secure visas to live and legally work or study in the US territory state of the Philippines. That scenario would be so ironic to the decades upon decades of Filipinos venturing to other countries for greener pastures. If the Philippines were to become a part of the USA, how would it affect the regional conflict with China? In retrospect, assuming that the Philippines hypothetically became a US territory prior to World War II, the Japanese would have never attacked the Philippines. Invading a US territory at the time would have been a flashpoint to more violence and warfare that would have hastened the inevitable defeat of Japan and the Axis of Powers. Encroaching on one of the United States or its territories would have been disastrous for them. Most likely, World War II would have had a much different path to it ending. A less bloody and deadly conclusion would have happened instead. That alternative scenario would have changed the current social-political narrative with China that seemingly always has the Philippines on the verge of an armed conflict with its menacing neighbor. With regards to the ongoing dispute over the islands in the West Philippine Sea, if the Philippines were a U.S. territory or state, it would be resolved very quickly with a fair or even favorable outcome for the Philippines. China would succumb to whatever rightful claim the Philippines would make over the controversial islands, even taking precedence over the jurisdiction of UNCLOS. All the political bickering and military posturing would cease immediately. The sheer military might and full backing of the U.S. forces would settle the decades-long conflict once and for all. Making the Philippines part of the U.S. would surely strengthen the already powerful U.S. military and would subsequently bolster the capabilities of the existing armed forces of the Philippines. We would instantly become a formidable military force. No longer would the Philippines be getting outdated, hand-me-down, subpar military equipment from donor nations. Instead, much like Israel, we would be beneficiaries of top-of-the-line supreme weapons of war from Uncle Sam. Currently, the U.S. spends about $877 billion on its defense and military, compared to the meager $4.1 billion budget the Philippines spends on its national defense and military. Imagine if the Philippines were allotted even a fraction of the U.S. military spending. Washington, D.C. would undoubtedly allocate a good chunk of its military budget on developing and strengthening the Philippine archipelago as its most strategically important Asian frontline of defense against any oppressors in the region. Nobody would dare mess with the Philippines ever again. Fun fact: the Philippines is America's oldest and closest ally. Unfortunately, the territorial conflict with China is one of the more concerning issues we face today, and there is a separate video covering this topic in more detail. You can watch it on this channel. Before you do though, please subscribe to this channel to get informed on more new and interesting videos and content that are available for your viewing. Don't forget to hit the like button and the notification bell too, and please share the content. Now back to our video.